Hello, I'm Jason Lightoller from Woodside. Tonight I'm going to show you two different variations of a 1x1 rib on a Superba European machine, particularly Fisherman's and half-Fisherman's rib, otherwise known as English rib. So in order to make a full fisherman's rib or an English rib, you need to set the machine up for a 1x1 rib arrangement. So the needles must not collide or slam into each other. So it must look like this. As you can see, if I move the needles out here, you can see that they are equally spaced and they are not colliding at all. And each opposing needle is in the exact center of each other, just like that. So what I've done is I've cast on with the zigzag row at the tightest possible tension, and I've hung the cast on comb and two weights, because what I'm doing is just using 40 stitches. Of course, if you're using a wider amount of stitches, you'd need to hang more weights. You do need a fair amount of weight for this particular project. And what I'm going to do now is to set the machine to do the circular rows, so that key and that key, and I'm going to do 3 circular rows. And I'm going to loosen the tension to 2.5 because I want the selvage edge to be quite loose for this particular project. So here we go, we'll just do the 3 circular rows. So fisherman's rib is also sometimes known as tuck rib, and we need to set the carriages up accordingly. So to make a full fisherman's rib, we need to not only engage the tuck button, which is this here, we also need to engage the circular button, and the circular button will ensure that the machine will knit in every alternate row. So we need to engage that on the main bed, which is the back bed, and also on the front bed. So we need to ensure that the same 2 buttons are pressed at the same time. And now I'm going to increase the tension on both beds to tension number 5. We need a fairly loose tension on this. Now I'm just going to knit a small example of 20 rows. So that's 20 rows there, and ordinarily about every 20 rows or so you would need to hang some edge weights in the shape of the 7 hanger. I'm not going to do that because what I'm going to do now is just transfer these stitches up to the back bed and cast off. So now we're going to look at half fisherman's rib, sometimes known as English rib. Again, I've cast on in the same 1x1 arrangement using the tightest possible tension. And what I'm going to do now at the looser tension, 2.5, is knit the 3 circular rows. So for half fisherman's rib on a European Superba machine, first of all, we need to cancel out both those settings, and we leave the back bed in stockinette, and we're only going to do the tuck and the alternate rows on the front bed there. So just as before, I've loosened the tensions up to setting 5, and again I'm going to do 20 rows of English rib. So that's done. What I'm going to do now is just transfer the front bed up to the back bed and cast off. And here are 3 different types of ribbing. They've all been made over 40 stitches and 20 rows. At the top here is basic 1x1 rib. Nothing particularly fancy about that, it's just standard ribbing. The second example here is the full fisherman's rib. And this one here is, as you can see, is significantly wider than the 1x1 ribbing, but it's also significantly shorter. The last example here is the half fisherman's rib, otherwise known as English rib. Again, is significantly wider than the 1x1 rib, but it's also shorter. However, both of these variations of the fisherman's rib are much thicker and much warmer than the 1x1 basic rib here. They're very useful for scarves and for clothes, and as they're significantly wider than the 1x1 rib, if you have needle bed limitations, these work out beautifully. Now with English rib, there is a right and a wrong side. If you look closely on the wrong side, it has a somewhat bumpy appearance on the ribs, and if you look on the right side, the texture is actually a lot smoother and a lot flatter. However, it doesn't make any difference. If you want to use this as the wrong side and this as the right side, the choice is entirely up to you.